Welcome to Tab Briefs, a weekly look at headlines from the world of faith for May 1st, 2020. I'm Tab Media Content Editor Carrie McWhorter, and the top 3 headlines that grabbed our attention this week are the coronavirus pandemic's effect on persecuted Christians in Africa, state restrictions on worship gatherings, and the status of college campuses in fall 2020. First up, Christians across Africa experienced some of the highest levels of religious persecution in the world. 17 African countries are on OpenDoors' 2020 World Watch list of the 50 countries where persecution of Christians is highest. Now OpenDoors says those Christians are doubly in danger due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. The African continent is home to 1.1 billion people. The World Health Organization says coronavirus cases have been confirmed in every country except for Lesotho and in most territories on the continent. As of today, the BBC reports nearly 40,000 confirmed coronavirus infections in Africa, with more than 1,500 deaths and nearly 13,000 recovered patients. Of the 4 countries with the most cases of COVID-19, only one, South Africa, is not on the 2020 World Watch list. The other 3 countries with the highest reported number of cases are Egypt, ranked number 16 on the list, Algeria, ranked at number 17, and Morocco, ranked at number 26. According to OpenDoors World Watch research, data indicates a direct correlation between the countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are most vulnerable to the virus and the countries where Christians face the most pressure for following Jesus. Specifically, 4 of the 5 most virus-vulnerable, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, Sudan, and Cameroon, also count among the places in sub-Saharan Africa where life is hardest for Christians. Experts have worried about COVID-19 spreading to Africa because many of the healthcare systems on the continent are inadequate, having problems such as lack of equipment, lack of funding, insufficient training of healthcare workers, and inefficient data transmission. In addition, Africa already battles many ongoing disease outbreaks that tax local medical providers. As of April 18th, 2020, the supply of ventilators is low in much of Africa. 41 countries have only 2,000 ventilators between them, and 10 countries have no ventilators at all. Even basic supplies like soap and water are subject to shortages in parts of the continent. And for Christians who are already persecuted, the pandemic gives way to even more ways believers can be discriminated against, exploited, and attacked for their faith. OpenDoors says, in addition to the health concerns, many African pastors depend on tithes for their income, so restrictions on gatherings will make it difficult for pastors to even feed their families. In some countries like Nigeria, which ranks number 12 on the World Watch list, Christians report receiving 6 times smaller rations from the state than Muslim families. And even in a pandemic, OpenDoors reports that violent persecution continues, and some militant groups see an opportunity to recruit new members in the midst of another health crisis. To read more about the situation in Africa and to read weekly reports on the global persecuted church, go to tabonline.org and follow Tab Media on social media. Most states have religious exemptions to COVID-19 social distancing rules. Every state in the U.S. has some sort of social distancing guidelines in place in the spread of the coronavirus, but Pew Research says these rules don't always apply evenly when it comes to in-person worship services. In an analysis of state-level regulations through April 24th, Pew found that only 10 states were preventing in-person religious gatherings in any form. That list includes California, where a group of churches are suing the governor there, claiming the state's rules violate their First Amendment right to free exercise of religion. The CDC continues to recommend that in-person gatherings of more than 10 people be canceled, and for gatherings that do take place, participants should maintain a 6-foot distance from others, according to the CDC. But most states have made exemptions for religious gatherings in their stay-at-home orders and in their social distancing orders. Some states, including Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee, have deemed worship an essential service, just like food shopping and health care. Roughly a third of states are allowing religious gatherings to continue without any limit on their size. and about half the states have restrictions in place for mass gatherings that include worship services, funerals, and weddings. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey on Tuesday eased some restrictions on state retail businesses, allowing them to open at decreased capacity. But the Safer at Home order issued by Ivey keeps restrictions on non-work gatherings of more than 10 people in place. A task force of religious leaders led by Montgomery pastor Jay Wolf recommended that churches in the state continue drive-in and online worship just a little longer. Alabama's Safer at Home order is set to expire May 15th. And as churches look ahead to a time when worship gatherings may resume, several resources are available to help. And I'll post links to some of those in today's show notes. And finally, and this is a big one at my house too, one of the biggest questions for families is what the fall school semester will look like. Now, no announcements have been made yet about K-12 education in Alabama, and I haven't heard of any in other states either yet, but the University of Alabama system, which includes the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, UAB in Birmingham, and UAH in Huntsville, announced this week in an email to students that the university system is planning for in-person instruction to as early as July. And the University of Mobile announced this week that it plans to resume on-campus instruction and residential housing this fall. The announcement by University of Mobile President Lonnie Burnett said faculty at the private Christian college will return August 10th, with classes set to begin August 17th. Burnett praised his faculty and the students for their work in completing the spring semester through remote learning, but he said students want the on-campus experience. He said university leaders are formulating plans to comply with any government regulations which may be in place when the fall semester begins. Options include limiting class sizes, increasing the available dining hall space, and offering courses in a flexible model where students might have the option of coming to the physical classroom or joining remotely via video platforms. Tab will be following this story in the weeks to come, so continue to watch our website for updates on colleges in Alabama, including our 3 Baptist campuses. Those are your Tab briefs for May 1st, 2020. To read more about these and other stories from the world of faith-based news, go to tabonline.org. And while you're there, check out our podcasts, Tab Talks, Tab News, Tab Briefs, and coming soon, Tab Stories. Thanks for watching, and join us again next Friday.